Welcome to the Stoic tide. Marcus Aurelius never raised his voice to command the Roman Empire. Epictetus, despite being a former slave, commanded respect from the most powerful men of his time through words alone. Seneca influenced emperors not through aggression, but through the quiet power of Stoic wisdom. What if I told you that the most respected men in history understood something most people never learn? True power comes not from the volume of your voice, but from the weight of your words. Today I'm sharing 5 Stoic phrases that command instant respect without ever raising your voice. These aren't just words. They're expressions of inner strength that make others naturally defer to your authority and wisdom. I learned these lessons the hard way. Years ago, I thought respect came from being the loudest person in the room, from dominating conversations, from never backing down. All that did was make me look insecure and desperate for validation. Everything changed when I discovered these 5 phrases rooted in ancient Stoic philosophy. They transformed how people responded to me in business, in relationships, in every area of life. These phrases work because they demonstrate the qualities Stoics have cultivated for over 2,000 years: self-mastery, wisdom, emotional regulation, and unshakable inner strength. Let's explore the quiet power of Stoic communication. 1. I understand your perspective, but I see it differently. The first phrase that commands respect is, I understand your perspective, but I see it differently. This single sentence demonstrates several Stoic virtues that naturally command respect: wisdom, humility, and unshakable conviction. Most people respond to disagreement with either aggressive pushback or passive acceptance. The Stoic approach acknowledges the other person's viewpoint while maintaining your own position with quiet confidence. I learned the power of this phrase during a heated business meeting where everyone was arguing about strategy. Instead of joining the shouting match, I waited for a pause and said, I understand the reasoning behind both approaches, but I see this situation differently. The room went quiet. Suddenly, everyone wanted to hear my perspective. This phrase commands respect because it demonstrates several key qualities. Emotional regulation. You're not reactive or defensive. You remain calm and thoughtful even when facing opposition. Intellectual humility. You acknowledge that others have valid perspectives, showing you're secure enough to consider different viewpoints. Quiet confidence. You're not backing down from your position, but you're not aggressively defending it either. Your conviction speaks for itself. Wisdom. You understand that disagreement doesn't have to be personal or combative. You can respectfully hold different views. The Stoic principle behind this phrase is the understanding that you can only control your own thoughts and responses, not others' opinions. By acknowledging their perspective without adopting it, you demonstrate self-mastery and inner strength. When you use this phrase, your tone should be calm and measured. Make eye contact to show confidence. Follow up by clearly stating your position. Don't justify or over-explain. Let your perspective stand on its own. This phrase works in any situation: business disagreements, family conflicts, political discussions, or relationship issues. It shows you're someone who thinks independently while respecting others, a combination that naturally commands respect. 2. That's not going to work for me. The second Stoic phrase that commands respect is, that's not going to work for me. This simple statement demonstrates one of the most powerful Stoic principles: the ability to set clear boundaries without explanation, justification, or apology. Most people either say yes to everything, people-pleasing, or say no aggressively, creating conflict. The Stoic approach is direct, honest, and emotionally neutral. You're not angry or apologetic. You're simply stating a fact about your boundaries. I discovered this phrase's power when I was constantly being asked to take on extra work projects that didn't align with my goals. Instead of making excuses or getting frustrated, I started responding with, that's not going to work for me. The response was immediate respect for my clarity and boundaries. This phrase commands respect because it demonstrates self-knowledge. You know what works for you and what doesn't. This shows deep self-awareness and personal standards. Emotional detachment. You're not emotionally invested in others' approval of your boundaries. You state them as facts, not requests for permission. Personal authority. You're the ultimate authority on your own life, time, and energy. You don't need external validation to make decisions about your boundaries. Respect for others. By being direct and honest, you're respecting others enough to give them clear information rather than making excuses or being passive-aggressive. The Stoic wisdom behind this phrase comes from understanding that you can't please everyone, and attempting to do so actually diminishes respect rather than building it. Marcus Aurelius wrote about the importance of living according to your own principles rather than others' expectations. How to use this phrase effectively. Keep your tone neutral and factual. Don't elaborate unless specifically asked. Don't apologize for having boundaries. Don't leave room for negotiation when the boundary is firm. Follow through consistently. Your boundaries mean nothing if you don't enforce them. This phrase works in professional settings. That timeline isn't going to work for me. Personal relationships, that type of communication doesn't work for me. And social situations, that plan doesn't work for me. It's direct without being rude, firm without being aggressive. 3, I'll need to think about that. The third phrase that commands respect is, I'll need to think about that. In a world of instant responses and reactive decisions, taking time to consider your response demonstrates wisdom, self-control, and respect for important decisions. This phrase embodies the Stoic principle of deliberate action rather than impulsive reaction. It shows you value thoughtful decision-making over quick responses that might not serve your best interests. I learned this lesson during salary negotiations when I was pressured to accept an offer immediately. Instead of accepting out of anxiety or rejecting out of pride, I said, "This is an important decision. I'll need to think about it and get back to you tomorrow." That pause gave me time to evaluate properly and negotiate from a position of strength. This phrase commands respect because it shows wisdom. You understand that important decisions deserve careful consideration, not hasty responses. Self-discipline. You can resist pressure to respond immediately, showing emotional regulation and self-control, respect for the decision. By taking time to think, you're demonstrating that the matter is important enough to consider carefully. Inner strength. You're not swayed by pressure, urgency, or others' expectations. You operate on your own timeline. Strategic thinking. You understand that a considered response is usually better than a quick one. The Stoic foundation of this phrase comes from the understanding that hasty decisions often lead to regret, while thoughtful decisions tend to align with your values and long-term interests. Epictetus taught that we should examine our judgments carefully before acting on them. When to use, I'll need to think about that when facing important personal or professional decisions, when being pressured to respond immediately, when the decision affects your long-term goals or values, when you're feeling emotional and need time to regulate, when you need to gather more information before deciding, follow-up guidelines, give a specific timeline for your response, actually use the time to think. Don't just delay. Come back with a clear, well-reasoned decision. Thank them for their patience if appropriate. This phrase works because it demonstrates that you take yourself and important decisions seriously. People respect those who think before they act. 4, I take full responsibility for that. The fourth phrase that commands massive respect is I take full responsibility for that. In a world where everyone makes excuses and shifts blame, owning your mistakes and decisions demonstrates the kind of character strength that naturally commands respect. This phrase embodies the core Stoic principle of focusing on what you can control, your actions, decisions, and responses, while accepting responsibility for the outcomes of your choices. I learned this phrase's power when I made a significant error in a business project. Instead of making excuses or blaming circumstances, I told my team, I take full responsibility for this mistake. Here's how we're going to fix it. The respect I gained from that moment of accountability far outweighed any temporary embarrassment. This phrase commands respect because it demonstrates integrity. You're honest about your role and outcomes, both positive and negative. This builds trust and credibility. Courage. It takes real courage to accept responsibility, especially when others might share the blame or when circumstances were difficult. Leadership. Leaders take responsibility. By owning outcomes, you position yourself as someone who can be trusted with important responsibilities. Emotional maturity. You're not defensive or ego-driven. You can handle being wrong without it threatening your sense of self. Growth mindset. By owning mistakes, you demonstrate that you're someone who learns and improves rather than making excuses. The Stoic wisdom behind this phrase comes from understanding that your character is built through how you handle difficulties and mistakes, not through avoiding them. Marcus Aurelius regularly reflected on his errors and shortcomings as part of his personal development. How to use this phrase effectively? State it clearly without qualification or excuse. Follow immediately with a plan for addressing the situation. Don't over-apologize or become self-deprecating. Learn from the situation to prevent similar issues. Move forward without dwelling on the mistake. Variations that work. That was my decision and I own the outcome. I made that call and I take responsibility for how it turned out. That's on me. Here's how I'm going to handle it. This phrase transforms how people see you because it shows you're someone who can be trusted with responsibility and who has the character to own your choices. 5. I have confidence in my decision. The fifth and most powerful phrase that commands respect is, I have confidence in my decision. This statement demonstrates the ultimate Stoic quality, unshakable inner conviction based on careful thought and alignment with your values. This phrase doesn't mean you think you're always right or that you never change your mind. It means that once you've made a thoughtful decision aligned with your principles, you stand behind it without needing external validation. I discovered this phrase's power when I was being criticized for a career choice that others thought was risky. Instead of defending myself extensively or seeking approval, I simply said, I understand your concerns, but I have confidence in my decision. The criticism stopped and people began treating my choice with more respect. This phrase commands respect because it shows self-trust. You trust your own judgment and decision-making process, which shows inner strength and self-knowledge. Conviction. You're not easily swayed by others' opinions or social pressure once you've made a principled decision. Emotional independence. Your confidence doesn't depend on others' approval or agreement. You validate yourself based on your own standards. Leadership. People naturally follow those who demonstrate confidence in their decisions. Uncertainty is contagious, but so is conviction. Stoic wisdom. You understand that you can only control your choices and responses, not outcomes or others' reactions. The Stoic principle behind this phrase is the understanding that once you've made a decision through careful reasoning and alignment with your values, second-guessing yourself based on others' reactions weakens your character and effectiveness. Seneca wrote about the importance of making decisions based on wisdom and virtue, then standing by them regardless of popular opinion or temporary setbacks. When to use this phrase? When others question decisions you've made thoughtfully. When facing criticism for choices aligned with your values. When being pressured to change course due to others' fears or doubts. When you need to demonstrate leadership and conviction. When your decision serves your long-term principles over short-term popularity. Important guidelines. Only use this phrase for decisions you've actually thought through carefully. Be open to new information, but don't change direction based on social pressure alone. Your tone should be calm and matter-of-fact, not defensive. Follow through on your decision to maintain credibility. This phrase works because it shows you're someone who thinks independently, makes principled decisions, and has the inner strength to stand by them. These are the qualities of natural leaders and respected individuals. The Stoic foundation of respectful communication. All 5 phrases work because they demonstrate core Stoic virtues that naturally command respect. Wisdom. Thinking before speaking. Considering multiple perspectives. Making thoughtful decisions. Justice. Taking responsibility, being honest, respecting others while maintaining your own standards. Courage, setting boundaries, owning mistakes. Standing by principled decisions despite pressure. Temperance. Emotional regulation, measured responses. Self-discipline and communication. These phrases work because they come from inner strength, rather than external posturing. They demonstrate that you've done the inner work of developing character, wisdom, and self-mastery. The respect they command isn't based on fear or dominance, but on recognition of genuine strength and integrity. People naturally defer to those who demonstrate these qualities because they sense authentic authority. So there you have it. 5 phrases rooted in ancient Stoic wisdom that command respect without ever raising your voice. I understand your perspective, but I see it differently. That's not going to work for me. I'll need to think about that. I take full responsibility for that, and I have confidence in my decision. These phrases work because they demonstrate the inner qualities that have commanded respect for over 2 millennia. Wisdom, integrity, courage, and self-mastery. They show that you're someone who thinks independently, acts with principle, and takes responsibility for your choices. But remember, these aren't just techniques to memorize. They're expressions of character that must be developed through consistent practice of Stoic principles. The phrases only work when they come from genuine inner strength, not as manipulation tactics. Start incorporating these phrases into your daily communication. Notice how people respond differently when you speak from a place of calm authority rather than reactive emotion. Watch how respect naturally flows toward those who demonstrate wisdom and integrity in their words. The goal isn't to dominate others or prove your superiority. It's to communicate in a way that reflects your highest values and strongest character. When you do that consistently, respect becomes a natural byproduct of who you are, not something you have to demand or fight for. If this video helped you understand the power of Stoic communication, hit that subscribe button and share your experiences in the comments. Have you used any of these phrases? How did people respond? Remember the words of Marcus Aurelius, The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. In a world full of noise and aggression, the quiet strength of Stoic communication stands out like a beacon. Speak with wisdom. Act with integrity.